Darryl, expectations for the team outside of your dressing room are very high.
Yeah.
Does that affect the narrative of your season at all? I mean,
No, not at all, because what gets overlooked in it always is how hard it is to make the playoffs. All those are changed. Like this, the same. If the old coach says this is what our goal is this year, well, the league's changed. That means you haven't changed, right? You haven't changed. We haven't changed. The league's changed a lot not just rules or teams or anything like that. The game it's changed a lot because there's not a separation in the league. So it's a fine line. If your mindset is not to be if you're looking ahead of being a playoff team, you're going to not make the playoffs. So very clearly you have to set yourself up to make the playoffs, and you break your schedule out and stay in it.
Darryl, there's been lots of talk about the importance of building chemistry with so many new guys in key roles. Is there anything you do as a coach to try to speed that process along, or can you?
Yeah, I think just first off, quite honest, I'm glad we had the break between the busy preseason schedule till our first game. I think practices, and not just on ice, but a lot of the interaction in the locker room and video work and communication comes into it. I think training camp for new guys is a lot of times is sort of visual, like a lot of watching and not really personality. So I think as you get into this part now where you're spending a lot of time together, then the personality comes into play, and that chemistry and all that's a big word that gets used. That it's sort of like when you say culture and all those things, right? Well, it just doesn't happen. You just don't say we do this or we do that, right? You have to have the mix to do that. So I think we've made really good strides in it, and I like a lot of the things we've done, and you just continue to work at it.
Do you relish the challenge of playing the defending champs in Game 1?
Sure. Why not? Been there. Been on the other side.
Darryl, when you have a lot of new players and like higher end players come in all at once, well, guys sometimes have to get to a point, I wouldn't say more selfish, but do guys defer sometimes when they're trying to work those things out with guys that they're playing with? Or
Yeah, I think early, but I think that, when you say high or top end players, right, it's the top end player. These are different type players than Johnny and Matthew, right? They're different type players. And Eric also, they're different type players when you look at it. So it's not they got to change anything. They're still, they're actually none of those players are of any concern to me. My biggest concern is the 23 to 29 age group. They have to be improved team. If that group's not improved players, we won't make the playoffs. Very simple. Those guys that brought in, they're gonna be good players for us.
do you have any concern, because it's going to take time naturally for this whole group to come together with all the new pieces?
I think just practices. You can tell the guys are six. That's the best part. I've said this a lot about our group. It's a good group, right? So the three factors in that are always good players, good people, good players, good competitors. Right? That's what it boils down to in the end. So is there a concern for that coming together? No. I think that there's parts of your game that you want to come together more in terms of zones and situations, things like that. But you can see in practice the separation and where guys are at, and as I could see it from the last game to the third practice already. I can see difference in where players are sorting themselves out.
Darryl, do you plan to name a captain before Thursday night?
No, I think, it's in West, I'm not saying this in any sort of a derogatory way or anything like that, but there's no need to name one. There's not a clear-cut one. I think our 30 and older age group, we have two guys that represent us very well as quite honest, you could say co-captains in Michael and Tanny. But I also think in that group there's There's what, about 7 Stanley Cups? So those guys don't have to have a C on them. They get it, right? So it's got to come out of that 23 to 29 age group, right? You're still looking for it. And that's not just something, it's really, really difficult to be a captain of a hockey team in Canada. It's totally different than if you're in the Sun or somewhere where it's not a hockey market. This is totally different. There's a lot of pressure on that player. You look at this team, since when did Jerome become captain? So whatever year it was, just put it that way. Just go like this. Jerome and Gio were probably easy players to make captains, right? Top players, great in the community, great competitors. So, you just don't say, "Well, that's our captain." So it's way different in the league. That's why not every team has a captain, quite honest, because it's a big burden. You want the player to be a really good player. You don't want him to be carrying the cross around all the time.
So you'd be happy going with a.
I'm happy with it. I am happy. I am happy with it. Yeah, we're allowed to have 4, and we might have 3, but it's just a letter. Can't put it on them guys that won cups.
You must have seen some guys, though, thrive over the years.
Because it's natural. Because it's natural, right? It's not something that's comes from outside or anything. It's natural, right? It's not. They were probably captain when they're. I'm going to bet that Jerome and Gio were captains when they were little boys, Pee-wee, right? Think about it. Like, it's the same.
What are you focused on in practice this week to get your team ready for Thursday?
Just a detail in a lot of our system stuff, zone stuff that some of the younger guys need just the repetition of it, and also see where it fits. I mean, as I said, I think it separated itself out. That's what training camp's about, right? Take somebody's place. So those 30 and over guys, nobody took them, right? So we know I could have pretty much picked our roster 2 weeks ago, but you're still giving guys opportunity and being fair. So what you're looking for this week is the consistency in what we're trying to do.
How valuable is a versatile player like Trevor Lewis, who you can play in a bunch of different spots?
I think Louis is just as important off ice as on ice with our group. Just his work ethic and his training and and familiarity with how he plays. His best position is right wing, for sure. So when you say versatility, that's move him to center. That means either because of injury or somebody was horseshit. Quite honest. And there's younger guys that, if we had to move Louis to center tomorrow, that's because guys behind him didn't plug in. Right? So Louis' position is right, center, left. And if you look we got guys like that, Blake, that can go both sides. Mans can go both sides. Dylan can go all 3. So, we've played exhibition games this year. We had 7 centermen in the lineup, and that's the opportunity that they had.
A few guys have called Trevor Lewis a glue guy and emphasized that off-ice element. Just what is it about Trevor that makes him such a valuable teammate or part of this team off the ice?
Yeah, I think he's committed to being a really good pro, and he's been like that for, I've known him for quite a long time now, and it really hasn't changed. In some ways, he's a better player, even though he's 35 or 36, whatever he is. In some ways, he's a better player now than 10 years ago. So, understand your role. Your roles change. Those guys that win championships, their roles change as they get older. They go from being this to being that, but they have to accept that role, and they understand that, right? The guys that have won and don't understand as they get older to accept a role, then they're the guys that have trouble. So Louis is one of them guys that's just stuck with the program and able to maintain it. He's been pretty much touchwood injury free, and he's almost one of the perfect guys to coach, right? No maintenance. There's lots of them guys that you want on your team, and we're lucky to have several of them.